Today, we will deconstruct the Sword of Light Katana and show you what makes it great, and build around that to make it even better. We are talking great amounts of damage without any crazy setup. We are covering two builds. One well synergized that boosts the damage to 150% while compensating for its weaknesses, and another highly optimized that boosts your damage up to 369% with an easy to use setup. And I'll show you how to get everything needed for both builds. Let's dive in. We are diving into a cool weapon from the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, the Sword of Night. This katana is a polarizing addition to the game. Some players absolutely love it, others not so much. Absolute dog shit. Finally, I can be God in Elden Ring 2. Generic cringe shit stick for weebs. A weapon fit for the true edgelord. But we are not here to judge. We are here to see if this weapon is actually good, and importantly, how we can make it better. An immediate question comes to mind when looking at this katana. What makes it special? Why would you choose it over other katanas? That begs the question, where does it rank among the other katanas? Well, it holds up pretty well. I thought it would be worse, honestly. The weapon ranks 10th among the katanas in terms of total damage. Not to mention, this list is inflated with the same katanas with different affinities. It actually ranks 5th among the highest total damage unique katanas. It is not the highest in raw damage, but it makes up for it with its unique skill. The Sword of Night skill is called Witching Hour Slash, and this is where things get interesting. It has two forms: charged and uncharged. The charged skill deals 35% more damage with a slower cast. If we compare the charged skill to the charged heavy of the weapon, it deals 93% more damage, making this skill your go-to for building into this weapon. If you do some research on the weapon, not much is known about its scaling. This weapon has something very unique. Even though 25% of its damage is magic, the Sword of Night has no scaling in intelligence or arcane. And that 25 magic is very odd, so that got me curious. I tested leveling other stats to see if anything else affects this skill's damage. And yeah, it's pure dex. It is not affected by intelligence, arcane, or strength for that matter. This is unique because it initially did have intelligence scaling, but that got removed. The skill's damage also scales like you would expect. At 60, it starts having diminishing returns, so the same thing applies if you want to use this skill. A lot of people that use this weapon reported almost the same problem: hyper armor. This weapon's skill doesn't have the best hyper armor, meaning you will get staggered by small enemies when using this skill. To help this issue, the best we could do is reach an effective poise of 101 to avoid being interrupted as much as possible. That leads us to another issue. What is the ideal armor that looks good, can reach 101 poise, and is not too heavy? The answer is simple. If you don't care about looks, go for above 75 poise and wear the least heavy armor and slap the Bulgo talisman. You could do something like this setup: Crucible Axe Helm, Banished Knight Armor, Gutskin Noble Bracelets, and the Fire Prelate Greaves. But we need something that looks good. So here's the best armor setup to make that happen. Let's face it, fashion is the true endgame. The Veteran Helmet, the Banished Knight Chest, the Bull Goat's Gauntlets, and the Scaled Greaves. Most of this research answers most of our issues and what makes the weapon good and unique. Let's build around that. We will have two builds. Opt for the one you like the most that fits your style. The first build has high poise to combat its issues with hyper armor and an easy 147% damage boost. The second has a great damage boost at a risky playstyle with a 369% damage boost. Or you can mix and match and pick the things you like about each build and go for a hybrid. That's up to you. Starting with the high poise, high performance build. First, the Sword of Night. Max it to +7 for maximum skill damage. To get the weapon, you need to complete Count Ymir's questline. First, speak with Count Ymir at the Cathedral of Manus. Ring the bell in the Finger Ruins of Rhea. Head back to Ymir and obtain the second map. Pick up the All Mother emote, find the Shadow View, use the emote, and ring the bell in the Finger Ruins of Theo. Head back to Ymir and obtain the third map. exhaust their dialogue, sit at a grace, interact with the chair, ring the bell in the finger ruins of Meyer, defeat Metir, Mother of Fingers, head back to the cathedral, defeat Yolan and Ymir. Next, obtain the Iris of Occultation. In the Fort of Reprimand, drop down and defeat this guy. After that, give the Iris to Yolan to receive the sword. For your second weapon, offhand the Finger Seal to cast your buffs. It can easily be obtained from the Twin Maidens in the Round Table Hold. And for the armor, you can go for this optimized, clean looking setup, but you will need to hunt the pieces separately. The Veteran Helmet, the Banished Knight Chest, the Bull Goat's Gauntlets, and the Scaled Greaves. Or you can go for an easy set that will push you to above 101 like the Veteran set. For the talismans, first, go for Shadow of Alexander, crucial to boost the skill damage by 15%. It is dropped from Alexander after completing his quest line. For the second slot, go for the Godfrey's Icon, to increase damage of the charge skill by 15%. It is dropped from Godfrey the Grafted, found in the Golden Lineage Evergale. For the third slot, go for the Rotten Wind Sword Insignia, which raises damage by successive hits, which works perfectly with the skill. It is earned after choosing to assist Millicent and successfully defeating her sister. For the fourth slot, go for the Bull Goat's Talisman to raise poise by 33%, pushing you to 101. It can be found in the back of the Dragon Barrow Cave in Caelid. For the physic, go for the Thorny Crack Tier, which increases damage by up to 20% with successive hits. It stacks with Rotten Wind Sword Insignia and works with the skill. It is dropped by the Putrid Avatar in the Consecrated Snowfield. For the second slot, go for the Opaline Heart Tier to increase all damage negation by 15%, which makes you more tanky to trade hits when you're using the skill. It is dropped by the Avatar north of the 4th Farith in Caelid. For the spells, go for Golden Vow to increase your damage by 15% and damage negation by 10%. It will last for 60 seconds, and it can be found in the Corpse Stench Shack in Mount Gelmir. Pair it with Flame Grant Me Strength to increase your physical damage by 20%. It can be found behind 4th Gale. For the stat distribution, Spec 2, 60 Vigor, decent to meet the Vigor check, 40 Mind to be able to cast the skill multiple times, 32 Endurance to be able to medium roll with the whole set, 11 Strength to meet the minimum requirement, 60 Dexterity for high damage, and 25 Faith to cast our buffs. Let's crank up the numbers with a high damage build. For your weapon, go for the Sword of Night and max it to +10. Offhand the Finger Seal to cast your buffs, and go for the Rakshasa set for that 8% damage boost. It is dropped by the Rakshasa in the Eastern Nameless Mausoleum. For the talismans, go for Shard of Alexander, which boosts the skill damage by 15%, Godfrey's Icon, which increases charge skill damage by 15%, Rotten Wind Sword Insignia, which raises damage by successive hits up to 13%, and the Millicent's Prosthesis, which raises damage by up to 11% +5 to your dexterity. It can be obtained by killing Millicent at the Windmill Heights Site of Grace after you progress her quest a little bit. For the physic, go for the Thorny Crack Tier to increase your damage by up to 20%, and the Bloodsucking Tier to boost your damage by 20% for 3 minutes. To obtain this one, defeat the Furnace Golem in the Ruins of Unte. For the spells, go for Golden Vow for a 15% damage increase, and Flame Grant Me Strength, which will increase your physical damage by 20%. Spec to 60 Vigor, 30 Mind, 30 Endurance, 11 Strength, 75 Dex, and 25 Faith. So, is the Sword of Night worth using? Absolutely. The Witching Hour slash skill is its bread and butter, and with the right talismans, armor, and buffs, you'll be shredding through enemies. And if you're an edgelord at heart, or you're just looking for a solid dex weapon, this katana might just be your new favorite. Don't forget to like and sub, and check out my recently optimized paladin build, perfect for a new game plus run. Peace.